Okay, getting the first pick. Oh, get three, Pyro, get three with the
Wade kick, putting on a clinic. Whole team's down. Oh!
Experience tranquility.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another night of tranquility action. We're getting ready to bring a little bit of transcendence here at your faces. My name is Dor, and I am joined by the always wonderful Moxie, coming back to my roots here to cast a little bit more tranquility. Moxie, you're a little bit more unfamiliar here, but you want to explain where you're coming from?
So I'm hopping across the pond because I'm a degen person, you know. I don't believe in sleep schedules. And I get to tag along here because sometimes I yank you into my European time zone, so it's only fair that you return the favor. And I'm looking forward to today. You've promised me that it's going to be a good match. Both of these teams that we're going to be seeing, Tempo and Arctic, are both 3-2. However, Tempo have something a little bit more to prove because 2 of those wins were forfeits.
Yeah, but arguably, this is going to be a really close match. Even with 2 forfeit wins, we're coming into the second half of the season, and we're looking for Tempo to really step it up a notch, right? You don't take a game off of Godhand, but you did manage to lose to him 3-2, which is about as respectable of a score as you could possibly put up against a team like Godhand, who were favorites in Transcendence tier, no longer being so. I still think Tempo slightly favored here. I mean, it's definitely close as far as anything in Transcendence tier goes, but Transcendence tier is still the wild, wild west here at Tranquility. So figure out what kind of teams want to balance that one up or who's trying to shake up those listings heading into the second half.
I'm just looking forward to seeing what exactly teams lock in with, especially now in Overwatch. We're on one of those places where it really is about the map that you're on, or about which composition you're going to be rolling out. I've got my fingers crossed that we make it all the way down to Junkertown and that we get to see a little bit of the Widowmaker versus Widowmaker action. I always enjoy seeing that one because it's all about getting that first pick and then the space that it creates, the fear that you put into the other team. They just can't walk forward without losing another player. It makes me smile. I'm probably a bad person for saying that murder makes me smile, but hey ho!
I mean, I know you're busy sleeping or whatever last night, but some of the Harmony teams are actually running Pirate Ship in Junkertown, which is just, it's amazing to see, because now with the Roadhog nerfs, he's significantly less good at actually breaking down those shields, so that map pick actually becomes a lot more interesting now, and I think that leads us to the next bit that we should probably start talking about, is the Roadhog nerf. It's gotten rid of a lot of options, especially considering the fact that shields are now a lot more powerful in the game since there isn't this big fat hog to just chunk them out constantly.
Yeah, that Roadhog nerf is going to be absolutely huge because it's really good, right? About being consistent, but it's very consistently not getting you that finish when you hook targets when you want to try and break that shield. And so Roadhog now has a big old downside to running him, something that we didn't see before. And now, well, teams might think twice if they want to go for it, and they have a chance as well to go for that counterplay if you get hooked. It's not a guaranteed death sentence unless you have a Zarya bubble on cooldown.
Yeah, so with the Roadhog pick kind of out of the way, not entirely, still a pretty strong pick around most times, we've kind of opened ourselves up to a lot of the compositions that we used to see run, as well as a lot that we're seeing run now that weren't being run prior. Mostly the Winston D.Va dive has been a bit of a favorite as well. We've seen a mix of Brawl in here and there whenever people invest a little bit too much into the anti-dive tech within their compositions. So really, we can't be expecting much of anything. Now that we've gotten a little bit to talk about what heroes we expect to see, what compositions, what we want to see map-wise to kind of break those composition or break up compositional diversity. Talk about these players, Moxie. We've got a couple of interesting ones considering these teams are relatively close. Why don't you go ahead and take me through Arctic?
Yeah, so Arctic have a quite mixed bag of SRs. You know, you've got Pain sitting around about that 3.7. Tony Cannoli, Graphics, and Rosen then all rotating around about that 3,500, 3,600, and then a little bit of a leap up to Orphis. I know you side. I'm not going to say it with the accent.
Fine,
I know you're wanting to, but you know, you gave me Arctic, not Tempo, so this is your funeral. Orphis is a little bit of a jump up to that 3,900, and then Wiglaf on that support roll, 3,694. So middling all the way around that 3,666 possession of SR. And I mean, it's a very strange place to be in ranks at the moment, especially because most of these guys do their placements at the beginning of the competition season. And we're seeing, you know, competitive season being a little bit dicey out that door. If you don't go in for 6-stack, it's all hands on deck.
Well, Mox, let's run quickly over Tempo's roster. Werner, Willow, Tenor, Brad, Swagtatious, Lilithy, and Waffle. Some very familiar names over on that end of the field, though. Let's find out in a second whether or not Arctic can keep up with Tempo, or whether Tempo brought the heat here as we hop into our first map, Busan.
It's going to be downtown as well, so I might not be waiting until Junkertown to see some Widowmakers come out of these spawn doors. And that means that your tank lineup has got to be mobile. You've got to be able to grab up that space and hold on to it for as long as you possibly can. So it is no surprise to see two Winstons going to be locked in with, well, a slight differentiation on that other off-tank role. Graphics is going to be picking up the Diva, Prince Wooly onto the Hammond. So you've got a lot of protection on the side of Arctic. You'll have that peel for the Winston, Tony Cannoli with Defense Matrix. As with Tempo, you're relying on Prince Wooly just coming in, booping everyone out, knocking them away from Dwarfle so that he doesn't actually go down.
Yeah, not too different in the ways of compositions, though. Yes, there's the slight off-tank differentiation, but very much what we've been seeing in Overwatch League in the past week or so. Very, very heavy on the Sombra Reaper. Playing this composition can be pretty tricky, though. The first team to get a Reaper properly into the opposing team's tank line after they've slipped up and given away one of those key cooldowns is going to find a massive lead. And right now, the Tempo in a pretty good position on the point, jockeying back and forth for a little bit of some, but Arctic have to find their way in. They can't let this take over for free. They need to get Rosen in and forward, but Tony Cannoli's really struggling to make space, dropping incredibly low on the Winston, but not out of the game quite yet. It's going to be the Coalescence from Tempo looking to close things out here. It takes down the main tank, and off the back of that, they should be able to roll this fight over.
Pain hit the Coalescence at the same time, but actually gets hacked out of it by Willow, who has been doing so much on this Sombra. Is already 50% ahead of Orphis to that EMP, and it means that Tempo will have it in this next fight. That Sombra has been on an absolute roll, and now, because you've got that space, you can just set yourself up, wait for Arctic to walk into you. You don't have to initiate. You don't even have to catch the Lucio at the moment, because he's 88% to the Sound Barrier. If you move fast enough, that ultimate is not going to be there. You don't have to catch the off support to guarantee a team wipe.
I mean, realistically, this one shouldn't even be close. So many ultimates still up for Tempo, just waiting for the right moment for the EMP. Chucks it out, but the bomb is going to help peel for them a little bit in the back line. Lizzie finds the first pick, and that's going to be at least one over to Tempo, but Arctic are still in this fight yet. As Brad goes down, most of the damage is going to be gone for Tempo. They need to end this fight here and now, Moxie.
They had a 6-person EMP, but wow, was the follow-up. It's the wrong Diva bomb that comes through. Prince Willy will be holding on to one of their own, but Arctic still have not been able to move forward. They've got the ultimates, they've got the EMP, they just don't have the full team to commit it.
Oh, but they've taken down Lilithy, and with that, the sound barrier's out of the way as well. This next fight's going to clearly go the way of Arctic. Tempo needs to back up, get away. The Winston's dodged an EMP, but it's hit his teammates. Wiggloss still doesn't have the sound barrier online. Arctic are finally going to take over this point.
They've got the sound barrier, they're just not committing it. They really want to hold on for when Willow trots out that next EMP. And now it's going to be that cat and mouse chase door. Make sure that the Lucio isn't around when the Sombra goes for that ultimate. And worse, hold on to it for the 25% remaining. Tempo can make this off support's life absolute hell if they want to with this dive composition. And so Arctic have got to be able to protect the backline if they want any chance in keeping hold of this point.
Well, this 25% is going to last even longer now, Moxie. Willow's been sent back to spawn again.
9% to EMP though, so if you're Wiggloff, you don't have to hide away for long. But if you're Tempo, you're coming in with an EMP, you don't really have anything to couple it up. It will be dry, but if you can catch the Lucio out, that's all you need.
Oh no, the Sombra's caught again! Orthus goes down, the only counter EMP opportunity they had is gone. Willow has theirs up. Wiggloff still alive, still at the sound barrier, but you're wishing you used it earlier because the rest of your team's not even going to be there to receive it after this. Taking down Dwarfle actually gives them a good bit of stagger potential. They could come in and roll this up to a decent percent, but no. Tempo have already taken the point over. They've got a Coalescence to close things out as well as a Death Blossom, provided they even need it here in Moxie. There aren't very many things Arctic can do to take this one over.
Wiggloff's sound barrier is even denied by Willow as well. It's the only member of Arctic that the EMP hits, but it's all that Tempo need to just limit all of this contesting time. So Tony Cannoli will be coming with the primal, but he's not even going to get to touch. Tempo walk away with downtown beneath their belts and a dominant showing over Arctic's backline.
I mean, you want to talk about backline, I want to talk about frontline. Let's take a look at Willow, highest SR in the lobby. First fight, 50% ahead of Orthis. Charges EMP in one fight, not against a Roadhog, no. Against Dive, against a team that actually can do something about the Sombra farming their backline. Pulled so far ahead, got so many EMPs off there, uncontested, perfectly placed. I think that's the real difference maker.
The real difference maker for me was that Willow hacked out Pain. Because Pain hit the Coalescence at the same time as Tanks did, right? So Arctic should have had the exact same sustain that was available for Tempo when that Moira ultimate comes through, but Willow completely cuts it short, and Arctic, who had been so busy surging forward thinking Coalescence will keep them alive, suddenly that was denied and their entire existence denied alongside it, and now they've got to be able to help themselves through the Sombra yet again. Rosen's onto the Ashley, you will have the coach gun if she comes in close, graphics even going onto the Zarya so you can try and deny the hack coming through with the bubble, but Pain is off the Moira and onto the Ana, and that's a much more vulnerable target if you don't have that sleep dart.
Well, Ana's supposed to be the vulnerable one, but it's Lilith that goes down first on the Lucio. Not a great pick for Tempo to be facing up against. Now Arctic gets to take all that space. The Zarya composition arguably slower, but since they're a man up, they can take as much of this as they want. Tying that up, though, is Willow again ahead on this Sombra. This guy does not let up right now. Working their way up towards a lot of ultimates. Tempo ahead on pretty much every single roll right now. We're going to take the first point over and likely to fight after that off the back of that ultimate charge.
They've got the space to work this Torbjorn into their composition as well. So Orphis is going to be that intruding Sombra. You've got to be so careful about how you actually come out of that stealth form. You don't want to translocate immediately back out because you got found out by a Torbjorn turret. And all the while, Willow was just trying to hit that EMP before Orphis. It's going to be such a close race.
Or this has it up first, but he's out of position. He had to translocate back, and that's going to be a killer when you're pushing in with a Coalescence. It's gotten just enough as well. Even though you have the EMP lead, it's gone now, Moxie. All the ultimates are on board. This next fight is anybody's game.
Well, it's going to be a big difference in which Sombra hits that EMP first, right? Because both of these guys have ultimates that can immediately end a fight. Prince Wooly's got the Diva Bomb, that's immediate follow-up, and when you're trying to hack out Winston and Zarya, they're going to be playing pretty close together. That means that the entire team, if they get caught out, are going to be so vulnerable. Orphis has got to land that EMP so graphics can actually get this Graviton to come through.
Well, just as important, he needs to hit the opposing Sombra with the EMP, which he didn't. Orthis now could use it for a re-engage, but not going to be able to. Wasn't positioned wide enough, and now it's Arctic. 6 ultimates on deck, but 0% board.
They held on to those, though, and Tempo invested very heavily. And so if Arctic are fast enough, if they're able to catch out Lilifty on this Lucio with that EMP, if they manage to catch Prince Wooly as well on that Diva denied defense matrix, graphics can freely get this Graviton through.
I mean, realistically, there's no way you can screw up this fight. You've got EMP onto just enough people right now. You get a D-Mech out of it. Push carefully now if you're Arctic, because they need to conserve their ultimates. They need to use these in fights after this. Lilithy is going to use a sound barrier to prolong the fight a little bit, but Arctic just take that time to take a breath, push their way in. Now with an Ashe on the high ground, Rosen can start doing some real damage. Oh! Prince Willy, 2-man bomb into the backline, evens up the numbers. They're nanoing. Arctic are going for this still.
They had to use the Graviton as well, and there's just hardly anyone except a nanoed monkey to try and capitalize on the opportunity. Or yes, you need to conserve ultimates, but you also need to win the fight first! Tempo are able to take Mecha Base, take the first map in this series, and Arctic, they had all of the tools. But the EMP comes down, and because they want to conserve ultimates so that they've got stuff to come, they just don't have the kill potential. Comes through and absolutely nothing happens. EMP runs out, the Lucio gets the sound barrier down, and suddenly Tempo have crossed the most scary part of Mecha Base when you're not in control of the point, that first choke. As soon as they're on that point, as soon as that fight widens out and all of the members of Arctic just scattered to the faces of the earth, that's when we see that fight immediately slide out from their control. The Zarya had to just turn from the opponent she was fighting, grab onto point, just so she could get the ultimate out.
And again, I think that goes to the fight prior, right? They were left with 6 ultimates there, but they weren't left with much room to work with, and that's because A, the percentage was racking up, they had to make a move, and B, the fact that Willow won the previous fight with just EMP, I'm pretty sure it was just EMP, maybe one other ult thrown in there at most, is just showing how well Tempo are doing it, actually following up on their ultimates, right? They're not just using one and hoping that gets the kill. They're using one in conjunction with some very, very good focus fire in order to take down more than one member of the opposing team per ultimate and give themselves those really key advantages in not only the game, but also in ultimates. They're being just significantly more efficient with them.
The worst thing for Arctic, though, is that you were stuck in a catch-22, right? If you won the fight and you poured every single ultimate that you needed, apparently, to win that fight with into it, then all that Tempo would have had to do, because they had that much point percentage already accumulated, was just bank ultimates up and then cash them out in a fight where they feel comfortable. Whereas if you're Arctic, you've got to grasp at every single straw, every single ultimate that comes online, making sure that Tempo aren't given that opportunity to move forward, to get out of choke and try and even up the fight. And if you didn't put them in, well, we just saw the outcome. You unfortunately take that loss on the fight, you take the loss on Mecha Base because Tempo just had so much point percentage, and now you're looking at that next map, either Hanamura, Anubis, or Volskaya. Either way though, I feel because Willow has been getting away with so much on this Sombra, that change is not going to be going away anytime soon.
Yeah, you take one on the chin from a Sombra map 1, only hit ahead to 2 CP in map 2. I mean, that just hurts. Yeah, more than anything I've seen in a long time, right? If there's one thing you want on 2 CP, it's a really good Sombra. And unless they can find a way to trickily deal with Willow right now, I'm really concerned for what Arctic are going to do here. There are options though, right? Things like Torbjorn Ashe are incredible on a Hanamura. Things like maybe a counter dive if they want to play more aggressively and try and shut down the Sombra space before she's able to get it. Could be really good. They've got options at the very least here. I think of the 2 CP maps, Hanamura, definitely a solid pick from them.
Well, they're going to be coming out with something a little bit different. So Willow is still going to have a hard time on this Sombra. It's just everyone's going to be playing extremely close together. Sombra really flourishes when she can turn fights into one-on-ones. And so if Arctic actually come out with this composition that they're currently showing in Attacker Spawn, everyone is just going to be six-stacking. They're all going to be in the same position, other than perhaps Rosen, who's going to be trying to just annoy that backline, maybe pop Principally out of mech or keep Dwaffle off Pain so that you can save that Moira Fade for when the hack tries to come through. And Orphis on that Mei is just going to be the bane of the Sombra's existence. Every time you come in, you're going to be getting primarily frozen, you're going to have to translocate out, you're not going to be able to hit that hack, you're not going to be able to keep this Lucio away, and you're not going to be able to build up to the EMP that Tempo really need. Because that's their current win condition. It's the only thing that can turn the tide into their favor. They don't have a lot of kill potential beside it.
Yeah, and with the Mei, I mean, they take a fun little route to point. I like it, the scenic route, we'll call it for the time being. We're going all the way around here, and you know what? They get the anti-nade out. Now they start pushing in. The Torbjorn becomes a little bit less of a threat when you have less gap to close all the way to that turret, but it's getting in without getting dove. It's going to be especially hard. Even if you move to the lower choke point here, the Tesla cannon is just going to be doing so much damage. This is Zarya moving in first, though, looking for a wall. They're not going to find it, but what they do find is plenty of point presence from Brad and Lilty, just raining in hell from all sides. Tempo disengage, give them the space they want, and then close the trap right back on them.
It's the Discord at the moment. In the previous map, it was Willow's existence. Right now, it's Lilty. Every single time Tony Cannoli tries to drop that shield and turn things into that close quarters fight, swing the hammer, everyone behind him just gets discorded. And that's when Tempo just move onto these targets one by one, and that 30% extra damage that you take really starts to rear his head. It does mean, though, that Pain is able to keep pace with Tankster at the moment, should be able to hit that Coalescence anytime soon to embolden Arctic. But now you've got the same problem. You've got to save the Zarya bubble so that Willow doesn't hack the Coalescence and cancel it out early.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to be a real problem right now is dealing with this molten core. Oh no, yeah. It catches 3 on the back end. You watch yourself into a room against the Torbjorn. Does he get it? He gets 2! Oh, the Brad play of the game. What a sick one. I mean, the Torbjorn, great anti-dive, but until he gets the ultimate online, it's hard to deal with it. But he's getting it online so quick.
He got 2, but not only that, Pain put the Coalescence in to try and get Arctic through. And now Pain's got to swap onto the Ana, try to build up this nano as quickly as possible. Tony Cannoli is going to go onto the Winston, so you've got an easy nano target. The Winston jumps in, creates so much space, but until then, Arctic, because they've swapped up this composition so much, are just going to be playing catch-up when it comes to assault charges.
Well, you're not playing catch-up for very long. The one you were looking at to actually win you this point is now back in spawn, 8%. It's all naturally charged. None of it is, you know, grown from actually shooting things. You might be able to get a good grab off here, but there's so many things Tempo have to respond.
You also, remember, have to worry about Prince Willie, this diva. Defense Matrix can just deny all of Arctic, but EMP does the job just the same.
Orthis is at 14%, and I think that says just about how well this compositional swap is going right now for Arctic. They're running low on time, Mux.
I mean, Tony Cannoli has just not been able to get past that first gate. He's on 29% to the primal. The cleave damage is just not there. If you're Arctic, though, you've still got this Graviton. You have to be very careful about how you come in because Tempo have everything except that EMP. 5 ultimates all charged up, and Wiglaf just a little bit too far away from that sound bar, but Arctic don't have the time, the luxury to wait around for it to be online. Otherwise, they're going to run out of seconds.
This better be one sick EMP charge, but it's not looking like it. They've got themselves space. At the very least, they're starting to move in. They get a grab out, but of course the Transcendence is there. There's a long way before Arctic are back in this one. With the Molten Core covering the entire ground, their space is running out as well as their time knocks. 30 seconds on the clock. Tempo still have ultimates up, and Arctic's push yet again shut down right in its tracks.
And Tony Cannoli is actually the second last member from Arctic to go down. He's so close to the Primal. He's the one that Arctic are going to be trying to bank on holding onto that point as long as you can. Rosen initiate the touch, and then Tony Cannoli just stay on that point as long as possible. Allow Wiglaf to build up that sound barrier, but you've still got to actually cross the courtyard, and now your Winston, all of the attention is completely gone.
Well, Tony Cannoli up in the back of the point. How much can he find? Not much. Wiglaf's gone down with sound barrier in hand, Moxie. They're almost completely out of tools. Pulse Bomb takes down Willow, which is nice. At least you don't have to deal with an EMP for a little bit. But you need some au natural kills to come into this feed without the help of the ultimates. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do much. Brad put the third one up on the board with the hammer. You didn't have to do them like that. There's still an attack side to come. Maybe he doubles it. Maybe he gets at least one more Moxie. Tempo are looking incredible right now.
Willow. This is a name that keeps coming up in this match, but my goodness, Willow is a Sombra that understands the game and how playing Sombra changes based on how the game is playing out. Arctic,
Unlike
because it's that very last couple of seconds, right? Tony Cannoli is forced to jump away to avoid courtyard entirely and get onto the point. Graphics on the D.Va the exact same. They abandon the Lucio, and what does Willow do? Knowing that the peel isn't there, knowing that the Winston can't cancel the hack, knowing that the D.Va won't try and body block, hacks the Lucio. And so Wiglaf goes down with sound barrier still up because he just can't get away. His speed boost is completely gone, and Willow only needs to just hit the shots then. And the fact that Willow has been building up these EMPs so often, so quickly with compositions like what Arctic are showing that are geared towards stopping Sombra goes to show just how deadly this guy is.
You know, I know they're on attack. They're probably baiting me, but I really want to see this Widowmaker, Moxie. I really want to see this Widowmaker. Granted, you're running into dive. It's going to be tricky either way. Arctic, they switched things up a little bit. May Ash, the composition that we haven't really seen. However, May McCree had plenty of focus in its own right. Cutting things off from Tempo is going to be particularly difficult when about half the team can just fly.
But if you're Arctic, and yeah, Dor, actually, if you're Tempo, you're happy because Willow is actually coming out on this Widowmaker Brad onto the Echo, and so Rosen is not going to have a fun time. Just throw Overwatch straight on your head. Wiglaf is able to get the res off, however, that means for 30 seconds, every single kill on Arctic side is now permanent, and that is all the go sign Tempo need.
Oh, they've lost their main support. Yes, you traded out for an Echo, but I'll take that one any day. The spawn's so long right now for Arctic. Tempo only need one tick. Remember, you guys, this one not nearly as close as it may seem right now, but Arctic turning it around well. A couple of nice icicles from Orpheus is actually going to save them. And that final pick onto Willows give them enough time to regroup.
Rosen as well on this high ground. Now that you know that there's Willow on the Widowmaker, you have to be so much more careful about your position. Make sure that you don't go down in the fight, force that res out far too early. And Brad is actually going to go onto the Hansel, so exact same job. Try to find Rosen, try to force that res out. Be a bane for Arctic if they want to try and put this dive in, because if the Winston jumps in, he's such a soft, squidgy target for those storm arrows, and that Dragon Strike is going to be up in seconds.
Well, I'm digging the counter dive right now from Arctic. They're just holding their ground. The tricky part for Tempo is the fact that getting onto that high ground is a lot more difficult than it looks. The Ash up there takes effectively 2 dives from the Winston to actually get to.
Especially as well because Arctic are seeing this. They're making sure they're constantly pressuring on that high ground. Even when Rosen's there, Tony Cannoli will be jumping up. Wiglaf is always going to be helping the Ash on that Mercy, so very mobile. And Tempo have got to start being able to coordinate this dive. Brad's going to be off the Hanzo. Reduce the Sonic arrow for a little bit of information for where the dive should come through. Now you're going to be going onto the Ash, trying to contest Rosen from that low ground. Meanwhile, the dive can come safely through. A 2-pronged attack means that Rosen's attention is going to be split.
Rose might have a hard time here, but they've got ultimates to make up for it, Mox. Out comes a Blizzard, and down go Tempo, losing at least a mech. However, being traded off for Wiggloff is great. Didn't get to use the Valkyrie, didn't get to use the Res. Arctic have to back up. Yes, they find a couple of kills on the back end, but they've definitely lost an important piece of the puzzle here because they can't Res anymore.
Lifty is even going to use the Res onto Willow. They know what a precarious position Arctic are in. They know that they only need one tick and they want to press that advantage as much as they can, and that's prompting Arctic to go so aggressively. The Maywall is perfect. It saves Tony Cannoli.
Oh, what a big wall there from Orthus. Now has to regroup on the point, though. Actually, big risk of dying on the way back here. In fact, very likely will. Great bubble. Holy cow, how on earth is that May alive? Doesn't matter because Tempo smell blood in the water, and they come for Tony Cannoli. 150 HP to his name, but Nano Boost is going to be saving his life. Still a Graviton Surge in tow. Arctic are playing their ultimates extremely well, but they're running out of space to use them. Bomb over top. Bubble to save. It catches out Wiggloff right as the Valkyrie is used as well. Tony can only trace back onto the opposing main tank. Graviton Surge still in tow for graphics, but decides they don't need it as they've got that main tank advantage right now. We're looking for the sports to move in and help out this Tempo front line somehow, but they can't get there in time. They eat the Graviton. They're eating a ton of damage. The spawn advantage is starting to matter, Moxie. Tempo are grouping up. They're pushing in. They've got a Bob, and they've got the tick as well as the map.
There's still a contest. It's Wiggloff onto the loose too, but it's just going to be a couple of seconds. And if you're Arctic, it's the exact.
Oh, sorry about that. Moxie is cutting at. See, that's EU ping diff. That's why North America forever, baby. at least in Overwatch tranquility for the time being. Figure out when she gets reconnected here in a minute. But Tempo taking a strong 2-0 lead, albeit one that Arctic definitely put up a fight for in that second map. Definitely an impressive little bit of defense they managed to pull off there, getting a play of the game with a hammer as well for some style points. Tempo, of course, looking very strong right now, but Arctic look like they've got a little fight left in them. We'll find out whether or not they can start pulling this one back for the beep beep reverse sweep after a quick little 10-minute halftime.
impossible. And girl, you look so fine with your heart on the line. And you're probably my savior. You're probably my soul. And girl, you look so fine with your heart on the line. You've won this time, made up your mind, and I'm talking to myself. And you're probably my savior. You're probably my soul. I can't feel you falling away from me. I feel you falling away. Heaven knows she is unexplainable. The way you looked that night with your heart on the line. No, I can't find the words to conquer you. And I always thought that I'd live and die by your side. And you're probably my savior. You're probably my soul. I can't feel you falling away from me. I feel you falling away.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We appreciate your patience during this halftime, sponsored by Cannoli Grooves. It's cannoli time. Now to get it back into a little bit of our Italian action here. It's going to be still Tempo leading 2-0 up against Arctic. It seems that, who was it? Willow has hacked out Moxie still, so being for her to survive here at some point or show back up. But until then, I think she's here. I know, producer's
Guys, help!
talking
Help! I can't breathe.
She's
The
back.
box is covering
She's
my eyes.
back. All right. Our stupid jokes aside, I'll tell you what isn't stupid. Tempo. Neither is Arctic. Arctic deserves some respect too. They put up a really good fight on that second map. They made me believe for just a moment that I might be able to pull off the fuller hold. Well, doesn't get much fuller than 0%, but still, effect is the same. You eat a couple hammers, you come back swinging. Nonetheless, they put on a strong defense, and I think you and I both agreed 2CP was a horrible map type for them. I don't think there's a world where you beat Willow on 2CP. Perfect Sombra player. You have that difference, and then they didn't even have to play Sombra most of the time, but then on the defense, I think that's just a world of pain for him. If Arctic come back, I think it's on the next map, man. I think it's ready to come in just a moment. It's going to be Blizzard World that we're heading to. They're going to stand a much better chance on Mox. How about you?
I mean, you've got a lot of space now. You can really try to counter Willow because, come on, Blizzard World, Willow, Sombra is going to be coming out of those spawn gates. But if you're Arctic, what I really want to see, what I really want to see is this hard counter Sombra. They tried a little bit of strategy against Sombra all the way back on Mecha Base, where we saw the Ash come out from Rosen, graphics go onto the Zarya, so you've got the bubbles, the coach gun, but that wasn't enough. What I want to see, and I'm sure you agree too, is that Torbjorn turret start coming into play.
Yeah, I mean, the Torb was exceptional from Brad. Seems to be a nice little special pocket pick. You know, I like seeing a Torb more than anybody else before it was cool. Now that it's cool, I still appreciate it, maybe a little bit less, but Brad seems to have a few style points up his sleeve with all those hammer kills, so Tempo clearly feeling themselves. Expect the Torbjorn to come back out. How do you expect Arctic to approach this map?
I really, really want to just...
Is she gone again? I think she's gone again. Oh no. It's cannoli time, Juke. Our producer, our lovely producer, Juke. Back to cannoli time, ladies and gents. It's a solo cast now. Tempo up 2-0 on Arctic. I asked Moxie what she wanted to see, and now I'm going to do my best Moxie impression. Actually, no. I don't know how to impersonate a Scott. No, I can't. I can't even try, man. Although I can't say Tony Cannoli, which is just as funny. Arctic going to be approaching with him still on the Winston. He's been doing a pretty good job, and he's been getting a lot of support from their team. However, one big difference now, at least what it seems to be a difference, is going to be the fact that they're locking in Mercy and Lucio. See if that stays. I expect with the quality of Rosen's Ash and how well it was doing on Hanamura, that things don't really change in that department. It's more so Lucio that I kind of expect to ship, if anything, maybe over to something like an Ana, should they choose to. Maybe it's just to get a spawn a little bit quicker. Tempo, go back to Old Faithful, Old Reliable, what they were running over on Control Point. Back to the Sombra Reaper. Willow is looking to just ruin the days of Arctic once again, which, you know what? It works once. It'll probably work twice, at least in this regard. Similar the map structure, at least with Arctic constantly trying to move in through a couple of choke points here. There's going to be so many opportunities to build up that charge, and already just give him a break, Willow, for Pete's sake. Like, a couple of seconds would be great. You force out the res 5 seconds into the game. This is rude. The least you can do is at least let them play Overwatch here. Is now heading into the first fight. Still pretty much the same place we were before. Lilith, first person down, reminds me back to Mecha Base when that happened, but it still hadn't resulted in a fight one for Arctic quite yet. They've got to close this one out, and taking out the main tank is exactly what they need to do to finish that off. Rosen on the Ash is doing some real damage now. Damage boosted up by Wiggloff. They've closed the distance off the back of the Lucio and the dive composition. They should be taking point A here. Now that they're in a little bit more comfortable of a composition, I think Rosen's Ash really makes a difference here. The fact that they're able to pump out so much more damage just makes them feel a lot more comfortable. With the Reaper's back for Tempo, they're putting in damage of their own. They've got to be careful, but without Lilith in the fight still, they're feeling pretty good. Willow has to build up an EMP. There's no real way back into this fight, but they've got 4 on point, and Arctic has gotten up so much space here. They might have a pulse bomb to give this push a little bit of new life, but with Tenor having the Coalescence online, it's going to be extremely hard to even do that. Arctic choosing to back off now. They can wait for the Coalescence to come up. That's going to be almost a guaranteed fight win. If they dodge EMP and re-engage with Coalescence, that's honestly their best shot at taking an advantage in the map in general. But they have the option of just eating this EMP and then coming back in with the Transcendence, especially with Pain being out. They'd like to force the ultimate, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Tempo holding their trigger finger for the time being, looking for a re-engage. Arctic get out relatively cleanly after the resurrect, and now with 6 ultimates to their name, this push looks very likely unless Willow can hit an extremely clutch EMP. It's got to connect onto everybody, and I'm looking at Pain more than any. It misses on the Zenyatta, but he's not up to the high ground. He can't effectively heal his team. It's Tempo winning the fight. 1 ult versus 6 right now, even chucking in a Primal Rage for good measure here to ensure they're going to hold on to the point. And now it's Arctic. They're still behind in ultimates. They didn't use the Transcendence, they didn't use the Primal, but they used everything else in what was effectively just a lost fight after that first pick came through. They didn't get enough people onto the high ground, therefore they ended up losing it. Now heading into the next bit, it's Tempo holding aggressive on the choke, wanting to be proactive. They know they've got a bomb. They can force him back through here where there's nowhere to hide. And playing aggressively with the Coalescence is just the perfect option for them. Arctic did not respect them nearly enough, didn't group up and spawn. They're going to pay big time for it. Now with a minute 17 on the clock, things are not looking pretty. Couple more options for Tempo. They've still got gas in the tank, and it feels like these guys can just keep going. The tempo never slows down. Arctic, in the meantime, looking cold as ever. Blood's running a bit low, but again, they've had this Transcendence. They've had it for 2 fights now. They should be able to use it for a re-engage here. Maybe at least avoid the death blossom bomb in the backline. They gotta be careful. Prince Willie catches 2 again here. Just chucking it in completely naked. Nothing to assist it. This guy can't help but come up with kills in the feed. Arctic on the back foot, sent back to spawn. 30 seconds left for their Blizzard World push, and it's not looking pretty. I think we've got Moxie back in. I'll remind our producer to go ahead and let her back in so she can view the match. And so I don't have to solo cast anymore. It was a little bit of fun, but thank God Moxie is back from the cannoli time. What? Oh no, she's trying. I don't think. Okay, we're just gonna keep on trucking along. Maybe I'll just solo cast for about as long as Arctic's push lasts. I think that's a pretty appropriate metric. Another aggressive EMP from Willow, miles ahead of everything on the opposing team. However, this time Arctic gets through with the Transcendence available to help them. Death Blossom though, and Willow still such big threats on this point. Arctic has been separated away. Rosen has nowhere to go, sitting in the middle of no man's land, but the point is beginning to tick up. They've almost gotten the bomb. Looks to seal things out here. Tempo finally have to give a little bit of space up, but it's at the cost of a couple of ultimates. Arctic had used everything to get in there.
Oof, that does indeed
She's
look
back.
like... She's back. Willow's back on the Sombra, you know. He came down and it just knocks out my entire flat blocked internet. But for Arctic, your entire ultimate economy has been knocked out alongside. And so this is going to be a rough next couple of fights. So they've got to start being able to match up to what Tempo are going to be coming in with. But that's not going to happen for a little while.
Tempo have a significant ultimate advantage heading into the fight. Their coalescences, Moxie, have been insane. We haven't hit up much on the support lineup, but Tenor and Lilithy have been doing a fantastic job. Lilithy on the Zenyatta looked great. Tenor now on the Moira. The coalescence has been nothing but perfect.
I mean, when you don't talk about support lineups, it means that they're doing their job. They're not going down early. The ultimates have been there when you need them rather than invested too late or too early. All around, this team is just so absolutely terrifying. Willow is the one that we've talked about the most, but Willow is at the moment that flashy play. You know when the Sombras had an impact. You see the hack come up. You see the EMP. Everyone else has still been pulling their weight. They've just been doing a little bit quieter, allowing Willow all of the space to work with.
Speaking of pulling their weight, Rosen up on the high ground, making the most of this Mercy pocket, trying to get damage through the bubble, but is really struggling to find an angle. It feels like no one's really shooting at the same thing from Arctic's side. They're each individually finding targets, but it's not helping them out much. They're getting a little bit of card progression here. They've charged up enough ultimates. They've pulled ahead of Tempo, and at least that regard, but they've got to be careful. The collapse here is going to be so dangerous. Bomb thrown down to peel away from the cart. They've called out the Sombra. Down goes Willow with the EMP. Arctic need to capitalize on this.
In fact, Tempo are just trying to prolong this fight as long as they possibly can. Try and let Willow come back in with the EMP. Tankster is actually going to use the Coalescence to try that, but Arctic, it's the cost of ultimates. They're having to invest this Bob, this Pulse Bomb. They will be able to keep this cart rolling, however, they can't allow Willow the time to set up. They've got to start hunting out Tempo, especially the Sombra, because Pain's got that Transcendence, and now it's going to be a matter of which comes out first.
Well, it might be a matter of which actually manages to come out second. Whether or not Pain can avoid it, he does! He gets in with the Transcendence to save his team, but Tony Cannoli goes down! Before the Transcendence connect, before the Transcendence can save him, Sombra are used on the side of Tempo. They know there's no time on the clock. They smell blood in the water, and they are very, very hungry. In they come, plenty of damage thrown down, but the target prioritization not exactly the greatest. They're not killing things very fast. Bomb on cart could clear out the space they need. It's going to get at least a D-Mech out of Tempo. As Arctic regain their footing on the cart, it's got to be a Mercy, though, to contest here as the rest of your team is streaming in one by one.
It's the same problem, though. Tony Cannoli wants to hold on to the Primal for the next fight, goes down with it. And now Tempo can just establish themselves on this car. They've only got to deal with the Primal and Winston if he's able to touch on his own.
Oh, he can't. Andy's hacked. The Bob was hacked. The monkey's hacked. That's a sad one to witness at the very least. 2 ultimates just thrown right down the drain because Willow says, no, you're not allowed to play Overwatch today. We'll call it 1.9 points through. Arctic managed to get a respectable distance through the map, but still, it's going to be difficult to hold Tempo to this when Willow's still playing the Sombra.
I mean, for Arctic, they've had the same problem, and every single time I've tried to talk about this, my internet's cut out, so hopefully, fingers crossed, Willow turns a blind eye to this one. Arctic and timing with ultimates has been a little bit skewish. Normally, you know, we are really laud players and teams for being able to hold on to ultimates for not putting in unnecessary ultimates so they can hold on to them for that next fight. But for Arctic, they're holding on to them at the wrong times. They see that there's another fight, but when you're that close to overtime, when that payload is that close to getting extra time, you've got to invest the Primal. That's the one thing that Arctic could have used to keep themselves on that point, but he goes down without using it. Not once, though, because he gets immediately rest back up, but twice with that Primal. And that just meant that Arctic didn't have that decoy, didn't have that massive amount of health bar to draw from. Instead, Tempo just gets to turn around and deal with the team.
I mean, Tempo looked fantastic as ever, and while there's been a couple off-prem rages, I actually feel like the tank lane of Arctic have looked really good. I like the swap over to D.Va. It's helped them find Willow and deny a ton of EMP charge, but it definitely hasn't gotten them out of the woods. Every map has been closer than the previous, and this one doesn't seem to be any different now. Arctic giving up a lot of space on the high ground. They're backing all the way up the point. This is how they lost it whenever they were so close on that attack prior. Was just giving up all the space, playing back behind the point. Yes, Rosen's up on the high ground, but pretty easily removed. A good counter dive by Arctic manages to at least keep him, but Rosen has been removed. That's the real hard part there for Tempo. They've done most of the work they need to. Now Brad has all the space he could want, as well as Willow just shooting across this point at a poor, helpless Winston, who should probably at this point just be going back to the jungle.
Oh, Arctic's mentality is they leave that high ground so that they know when the dive from their side comes through that they're in control of the space, that they're not in for any nasty surprises, like a Reaper or a Sombra where you don't expect them. And that's really good. Unfortunately, the dive comes through and it doesn't pick anyone off, though. And then the Winston is so low, he's got to get out. You don't have that big old body to bully people away from the backline, and Tempo just get to go Zen hunting.
Well, that's a nice bit of stabilization from Orthis. One with the pulse bomb.
Willow's curse has struck again, but this time he's had enough of my internet. He's going after my play-by-plays. So we're going to see Arctic now taking up the high ground, trying to just poke as much damage as they possibly can into Tempo before this fight starts. Try to draw out that coalescence as quickly as possible. Willow's already got a nice little hidey hole there with that health pack now hacked, which means Orphis is going to have to think twice about pressuring the Sombra, but it's Tankser who's allowing Tempo all of this space to move up. Coalescence being used to embolden the team, and Arctic have no choice but to take a big step back, and a couple more until Waffle goes absolutely ham with the Primal. Kane's out of the equation, 98% to that Transcendence, the worst thing that can happen, and that's going to force that Resurrection immediately out. Now Tempo, they know if they go for the Zen, he'll be down, he'll be out of the fight permanently with that Transcendence. That sets the way for Willow to come in with the EMP. Bomb goes through, EMP's after, and
Another two-man from Prince Willie. This guy can't help but do it to him. Tempo of a massive re-engage off the back of the EMP bomb, but remember, Arctic spawns are incredibly close here. Any little bit of stagger is going to give them a massive foothold onto the point.
But do they use Transcendence? Wiggly's having to swap onto the Lucio to try and let the team touch. They have no sustain, and Tempo's about to hit 2 support ults.
Well, there is a Bob. Bob's a good bit of sustain, but definitely doesn't outdo a sound barrier, a coalescence, everything that Tempo have in their back pocket. Arc need to pick, and they need it now. Orthus chucks out a pulse bomb, but it doesn't connect onto either of the supports. That's what you really needed to lock this one out. Now you got a Death Blossom in your face. You got a very angry Monkey trying to knock it away, but it's all but successful now as they found the backline. They found the chink in Arctic's armor, and they are widening it into a big old crack and a third map win. In fact, a win on the day. We may have one more map on the back end, but Tempo can start celebrating right now.
Tempo extremely dominant right now, but for Arctic, they're getting better as the map goes through. You pointed out the Diva pick, and I like the Diva pick. You get to do a lot more spy checking, and we saw a lot less Willow EMPs coming out, but they were still just as brutal. Look at that door! Oh.
I don't get how he does it every single time. I get there was an EMP with that one, but there were 2 more prior to this where he just chucks the bomb in and gets 2. I mean, the game sense is incredible. The tank play, the support play, and the DPS have all been bar none perfect from Tempo right now. Arctic have nice little splashes of specialty. I'll apologize right now for cannoli time. Marky disconnecting apparently shut down the webcam feed. We'll try and get it back. Cannoli time is a lot of fun. Until then, though, and this cannoli at least knows how to talk. That is for the fact that Moxie didn't know what a cannoli was until about 5 minutes ago during halftime.
It's an American thing, though, right?
No, it's an Italian thing.
I don't know, Americans have weird food cuisines, like your popsicles and your... What else do Americans...
I'm waiting. Do try and make up for your ice lollies and whatnot. You know what? Food arguments aside, ours is better. We're going to Junkertown. And that's what you want at the start of the series, Moxie. We might get to see a little bit of compositional diversity. You wanted Widowmakers. I wanted Pirate Ship. Maybe we get the best of both worlds.
Widowmaker Pirate Ship? That would be fun. I would like
mean,
that. You know, like Widow's just sitting in the crow's nest.
You've seen what we're running in quick play. Anything can work.
No, they're not gonna run that. They're not gonna come out on the dive. Please. Please, anything. Don't make me gasp.
It may not be Bastion dive, but I wouldn't be surprised by a Torbjorn dive. They've already run it, Moxie. How much different can it be?
I've just got my fingers crossed. You know, Willow showed us a little bit of Widowmaker on Hanamura. Maybe they're gonna come out with it once more on Junkertown, especially when you look at point A, how it's set out. That is just a sniper's playground. All of those open line of sights. If you position yourself up, if you're that defending Widow, you get an eyeful of attackers spawn.
Yeah, and generally speaking, I think the depth to Junkertown actually comes from the defensive Widow's perspective. From someone who's played a good bit of it in everything from Open Division to Tespa, it's really, really difficult to actually get a foothold as defensive Widow because it's so much more punishing when you die. When the attacking Widow gets the pick, they're going to move forward, they're going to take space, and they're going to farm your backline. The defensive Widow gets the pick, the attackers just back off for about 5 to 10 seconds, and their Widowmaker's back. They can go for another stupid grapple shot and get away with murder. It's really, really tricky, and I think a lot of times this map is won and lost by who's able to put up the better defensive hit scan on first point.
Well, I like this, though, because Tempo are reading into the exact same mentality as you are. Willow on this Widowmaker is going to be such a key pick, whether he's alive or whether he's dead, and Brad is actually going to come out onto the Reaper. Likely not to keep that backline safe, but to make sure that if dive comes through towards that Widowmaker, he's there with twin barrel shotguns to immediately dissuade that Winston. And, you know, just convince them to keep on moving along. But Tempo, oh, this is aggressive. They're just going to start right into Arctic's faces. They're going to make sure that Rosen does not have time to go for the sanctity of the Widow versus Widow.
Oh, he doesn't know what's about to hit him. Oh, he doesn't have a clue. Oh, he didn't even see him! He didn't even see him! He popped up as right on your screen. Open your damn eyes, Rosen! Okay. You know, Rosen's been great. Has been doing incredible on the Ash, but I'm starting to think the monitor was off for that one, Moxie.
Willow just goes for the grapple shot. It's not what you're expecting. You're expecting that Widowmaker defensively to already be set up with a crosshair trained on where she thinks you're going to be. That early of a grapple shot, which is so punishing if you don't hit that shot. It's the 50-50. It's either an absolute death
No, not again, not again, not again.
Real material. Willow goes for the second one, doesn't quite manage to connect the shot. And Rosen now returns the favor. And now we're going to see Arctic try and clear up all of that space, as you pointed out a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and this is where it comes down to spawns. I mean, that's all there is to it. Arctic have a massive advantage here. Tempo are doing a great job of trading out between Brad and DeWaffle. They're actually doing a really good job. Tenor super safe and sound in the backline, able to keep them up. It's holding them all this space off of really good tank play and what is effectively pseudo-tank play from Brad here.
He's just acting like that for a tank, as you said, allowing Tempo to keep themselves in this fight with the Wraith Forms, with the teleports, able to just maneuver between that high ground and low ground, make sure that Rosen doesn't have the free line of sight you would expect when that defending Widow is gone, and Tempo have now been able to regroup.
Well, the nice part is they had to give up space to do it. Arctic now have an advantage. They can start pushing their way in. Rosen has an even better position, arguably, here. Willow's going to need to pop off from behind these crates, or at least draw a lot of fire, because their job just got significantly more difficult around the side. Oh, no, he turns at the wrong point. Woo! He still gets one! How on earth? Orthos and Rosen down. No DPS up for Arctic. Tempo have swung this one right back around. With 2 minutes on the clock, Arctic are feeling the pressure.
They're not even going to get Willow. DeWaffle pops the primal. And Tony Cannoli is finished off by the Widowmaker he tried to take down with him. Orphis is onto that Hanzo. You've got a lot of information as well as ult charge in the form of that Winston and D.Va. They are just walking hitboxes every time Storm Arrow is up and available, but you don't have the Zarya. You don't have anything.
You heard her say it. She speaks French. It's like another language, for Pete's sake.
Willow pops the ultimate, and Arctic go for the peak. Unfortunately, punished immediately for it, and Arctic will be waiting yet again.
I mean, I don't know how Willow does it. Just in everybody's heads right now, on the Widowmaker, on the Sombra, maybe just hacking. You press spacebar for them, make them jump into that headshot. But goodness gracious, it is a show, and Rosen might put a stop to it here in a moment. A lot of damage done, but not quite the finish they're looking for. Just holding their ground until that kill goes through. Arctic aren't confident enough to move it on their own, and it goes the other way. Willow finds the first. It's traded out onto Prince Willie, but it's absolutely worth it for the defenders, who now have these large open sightlines for their hit scan to work with. They're going to push through with all the confidence in the world, straight into the Zenyatta, who somehow is still alive, but eventually goes down as they should. 40 seconds on the clock. Arctic needs some sort of foothold here to get some sort of way back in, maybe find a little bit of dignity in this match, but they're struggling. Tempo are all over them.
Tempo know what their win condition is, and that's keep Willow alive. That's the second time I've seen tank abilities being used to keep that Widowmaker up when pressure comes through. First defense matrix, now the Winston bubble, and now Tempo can come back in for this recontest, but they've lost Brad. They've lost the Death Blossom, and that means Arctic have a real chance of winning this fight out, but Dora, with 14 seconds left, they've got to.
Pain goes down, no chance at a support ultimate. Now the Dragons looking to close things out. Both the DPS still up for Arctic, playing that double sniper. Need to shut down Willow. The tanks have won their fight, though, and that's going to be more than enough to get this cart over the line. See if they can get a little bit further than Blizzard World, though. They made it only about halfway through B.
Arctic have got to start locking up that high ground. They can't allow Willow to set up to get that first shot. No. Oh, duh. It doesn't matter if Willow isn't playing Sombra. Arctic still have to worry about that player. Brad's going to be taking up the hacker mantle now. And that means that this backline, Wiglaf on the Mercy, Pain on the Zenyatta, if either of them get caught out, they're as good as dead.
You know, every time Juke, our observer, switches onto Willow, I just fear for the enemy team's life. The guy's like a walking highlight reel at this point. I'm not sure what more we can talk about whenever this man is playing on screen. The tanks are doing a good job making space, but I mean, when you're making that good use of space, just on a different level. Right now, though, there isn't much space to be had. Tony Cannoli and Graphics are doing a fantastic job of pushing the opposing team back into a corner where they've got nothing to do but just eat that bomb for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now Willow has really nothing to work with on the Widowmaker. Arctic need to continue pushing this advantage.
Willow does have sights, though, and the last time that Widowmaker popped ultimate, Arctic tried to go peeking a little bit too early. So Tempo, if they want to come back into this, they will have the means. Brad's going to be taking up that high ground, trying to get a hack. He's right behind the entire team. He can try and contest the Winston, who actually slept, but it's the Zenyatta that you have to worry.
Wait, oh, both Widows down. That's so huge. Arctic are in such a good spot right now, but with Pain going down, with Transcendence in tow, who knows which way this fight is going right now. Orthos has a nice little angle, but no real heals to back him up. Prince Willie can push out of this and with the spawn advantage. Tempo should be able to hold on to this, but Arctic has so many ultimates to come into the next one.
He got the pack. Orthos got the pack, is able to survive the onslaught of the D.Va, and with Dragon Strike intact. And now you've got to find a way to force that Transcendence out of Lilifty to get the Dragon Strike to actually have an impact.
I mean, this game just continues to get more and more ridiculous. Dragon Strike forces out Transcendence. It also buys him a lot of room on the cart. Moving through that Dragon Strike is especially dangerous here. Arctic have all the space. They've got a Transcendence in tow of their own, but they pop both support ultimates at the same time. Very, very unlucky timing, but they've got another bomb that they could chuck in. It's going to buy him a ton of point presence. Maybe even the whole point? Oh, no! Wait! It made it!
It made it!
They got it, Moxie!
They got it! 1 minute, 33 seconds, but that means Tempo have gotten EMP and Arctic just stacked 2 support ultimates in one fight door. They don't have the Transcendence, they don't have the Valkyrie. When the EMP comes through, it's just going to be clean up in Junkertown Point C if Arctic all get caught out.
This will protect us.
And it seems like EMP has come in early. The internet issues are strong with this one. If you're Arctic, you've got to have a strong next attack, though. They're taking their time. They're really thinking about how to set this one up. They've got to win this fight out if they want that cart to keep on moving, and they know it. Primal should be coming at any time soon, but Tony Cannoli is not going to be using it if the Hanzo has already gone down. He's discorded. He's trying to keep the Waffle away from his team. The Tempo were just burning the seconds away, all the while Willow reigns supreme in that back. Orphus is trying to get him out of the way, but the Winston bubble is going to be the one thing that deters Willow. You can't shoot through that one, my friend. And now we're going to see Arctic. They're coming in, they've got the Dragon Strike, they've got the Transcendence, they've got the means to survive the EMP, they've just got to use it at the right time. And Transcendence comes in, but EMP hasn't! EMP comes down, it's absolutely huge! Wiglaf is able to keep the Valkyrie in check though, and that's all the sustainability that Arctic need. The Waffle picks out graphics on the D.Va, no bomb, but you've still got that Valk, you've still got the Mercy alive. Tempo, they've got a little bit more distance, they can afford to group up, especially with Prince Willie so close to those hammer mines. All he has to do is just drop him straight onto point, and that's going to be Arctic packing their bags if they aren't able to chunk those ones down. Tempo have got to come into this with the right timing. They can't let that Hammond get caught out before this fight starts. Thanks is even onto the Ana, so you've got that anti-nade to just deny Arctic's sustainability, but Willow is the one denying all of Arctic's presence right now. The Widowmaker picks out the mirror.
The big pick, the bomb buys him space again, but Graphics just can't match Prince Willie's 2-man bombs right now, and they would want nothing less than for that to happen. Tony Cannoli still putting in insane amounts of work up here on the cart, though, with Lily down. That's a Transcendence as well gone from the pockets of Tempo. With the spawns being so good, with Willow having such free sightlines, it is just impossible to push any further from that. However, Moxie, this is still the best we've seen Arctic do. It continues to improve map after map.
They got extremely far, and a lot of it was down to knowing when ultimates were to come out. The D.Va bomb on point B was absolutely huge. It forces Tempo back. They had the EMP. They had the win condition. All they needed to do was walk forward to use it, but they couldn't because Graphics' D.Va bomb would have exploded right into their faces. And unfortunately for Arctic, where they fall down in point C is putting the ultimates in at the wrong time once again. Pain gets forced into using that Transcendence a little bit too early, and so when EMP comes out from Brad, it is just absolutely brutal, and Arctic just can't quite recover from it. Heading in on their defense, I want to see now that defensive Widowmaker, those sightlines that you were immediately gifted, being used to their full potential as door. Tempo were teasing us.
Please validate our quick play shenanigans. This is all I want in life. Just Winston, Ball, and Bastion.
I'm gonna let you be
Please.
the color caster for a couple of seconds. So
I
you can
will.
explain to the good folks what exactly
Cowards, lock it. You won't.
what exactly tempo we're currently teasing.
Bive is the hot new thing. We've been my OD team's been running it a little bit and messing around, but I don't think we get to see it. Fortunately, it's gonna be Willow back over to a Widowmaker, which we hope to see him dominate on. Orthos swaps things up with a Torbjorn Mox. How do you think this works out?
Well, this is to try and deter if a Sombra comes out. Remember, Brad had picked that one up, and that was something that Arctic still struggled with. The EMP, they had to commit so many resources and hold on to them in advance for it. And they're hoping to just completely take away the problem, but Wiglaf has gone down.
You know, it's a shame, because, right, you swap out the Ashe, the Torbjorn, because you don't want to take the Widow duel against Willow, but then what you don't realize is you've got no one to contest Willow, which is equally as bad a problem.
And for Wiglaf as well, on the Mercy, you've got the damage boost for Rosen, but tempo, Willow has Lilithdy. And so you don't just have that damage boost with that Discord Orb landing on 30% extra damage on one person's head. No. If you have the entire team with that 30% extra damage buff, that means that anyone that Arctic find that Discord Orb lodged above is going to be absolutely shredded with Mercy and a heals.
It doesn't matter about Discord Orbs, Moxie. Willow still one-shots things when he clicks on heads. Gets 2 before Orthos manages to take him out, but the damage has been done. This one's all but over for point A. Willow continues to just rain havoc. You know, I likened it, you know, it's a secondary problem, and Arctic are just refusing to deal with it right now. It's likened to just like an ostrich sticking its head in the ground and just denying the fact that the problem actually exists.
Well, I mean, they are going to be trying to deal with it. It's just that the dive is coming through onto Prince Willie, who's currently on the high ground, that they really want to set Rosen up, and so now you've got to take your attention away from Willow, which is setting the Widowmaker up. Rosen's able, with the damage boost, to get the Widow out of the way, and tempo is immediately going to be cowed, moving backwards, not wanting to move in with that threat removed so that the dive doesn't take full damage when they try to jump.
Yeah, Arctic's point B play is bound to be a lot better. The Ashe just works so much better than the Widow when the space gets close like this.
I really like as well that Arctic have moved Orphis onto the Tracer on that last little bit of point A, seeing that there isn't a Sombra, that there isn't any reason to have that turret, but now you've got to try and close up the distance to actually successfully land this Pulse Bomb. You don't necessarily need to get a pick. If you're able to hit it onto Lilithdy, who's so close to that Transcendence, you can bait out that ultimate, but the sleep is going to be forcing Tempo to wait even longer.
How you push in, you've got a Pulse Bomb in tow. Arctic, when they get a lead, at the beginning of the series, it felt like even a pick wasn't good enough for them to win a fight, but now it feels like they can't lose one whenever they're at a one-man advantage. Caster's Curse, still definitely a thing, though, as Tony Cannoli goes down. 6 ultimates in tow for pretty much both teams. The Rez, how'd that Rez go off? Tony Cannoli dies in the backline, still manages to keep himself alive. Rosen has a very favorable duel here, just gives him a nice little fist to the face to hold on to things. Bob throwing in late as well, looks to seal things out here for Arctic, and should do a pretty good job of that, as he's nice and tucked into the corner.
If Arctic are able to draw this fight out for long, then Tempo are going to have such a huge disadvantage. They use Transcendence to keep themselves alive for the Bob. Arctic still have ultimates in the pocket.
This fight is just back and forth, extremely scrappy. Rosen, though, most notably still alive, still damage boosted, still putting out obscene amounts of damage. I think Tempo lost this one the second they gave up that second pick.
Lifty is off the Zenyatta and onto the Mercy, so now you've got the damage boost, you've got that... Oh, 2 lives for Willow as well. If you take this Widowmaker out once, you've got to get her a second time, and already Willow's feeling much more comfortable. Knows that you've got 2 lives to play around with, and so you can go for much more aggressive angles and really force Arctic to change their entire positioning around you.
Come on. It's like watching a term. It's like a T2000 just within Overwatch. Constantly, he owns the entire space. He could be getting dove by like 3 people. He's turned around looking at the other Widowmaker. It does not matter what this guy does. He doesn't die. He kills somebody on the way out. Even if he does die, he takes like 2 away with him. Tempo should be able to take this one over to a second point, but they're not able to convert. Arctic are playing these spawn advantages so well.
Arctic, though, are able to get Willow and the Waffle, so Tempo going to be forced back yet again. They'll be coming in with some serious ultimate power, though. Those Hammond Vines can be so dangerous if you're not careful about letting that Hammond get that much space, especially when you've got a nano boosted Winston to worry about as well to chase you right into that minefield.
I mean, this is the same set of ultimates as it was 2 fights ago. The mine's likely to be dropped on Cart, but Tony Cannoli and his Primal Rage were what ended it last time. However, they've lost the honor, they've lost all their sustain. Tempo are doing fantastically in this fight, and Arctic have held pretty much everything. The Valkyrie was incredibly late. The Primal Rage is even later here. They're fighting for scraps, Moxie. I'm not sure they're going to be able to hold this point.
It's the exact same problem. This is the one thing that Arctic really struggles with. Getting that timing on those ultimates right. It's a late investment. Once again, they really want to hold on to things until they're in the direst of situations to really warrant using them. But by then, that Valkyrie is just not going to be able to keep a team alive. It's not enough healing. It's nowhere near the level of a Transcendence, and so Tempo just get to aggressively move forward, try and claim up the spaces. Arctic have got to win this next fight if they want those sightlines, if they want to be able to set Rosen up to deal with Willow.
Well, speaking of dealing with things, this is a pretty deal-withable, if that's even a word, a time bank, right? Willow can find all the picks, but they haven't really been converted into fights by Tempo most of the time, right? A Resurrect is going to be enough. Mercy goes down, but you did what you needed to do by getting that off in its own. The cart's still progressing forward, though. Things are getting dangerous here because Tempo are looking to take space. Arctic are rapidly losing it. A Primal Rage is gaining even more. The mines are still online. This is getting incredibly close. If those mines just drop so that they can't push back onto the cart here, it's going to be in a world of hurt. They've lost their main tank as well. There's nothing here to contest.
And he kept a hold of the minefields as well.
Oh my
So
god, Orthus
Arctic,
is
if
doing
they come back
everything.
in, they're walking straight into that explosives. And now Tempo can set up at all angles. Willow is even going to pop in for a slight just to make sure the Arctic don't allow Rosen a position of power. Immediately gone. The Ashe absolutely shredded in seconds now that Tempo know where she is.
Yeah, there's just an ultimate difference right now. Tempo take away a 4th map on the night off the back of, quite frankly, one of the most ridiculous games of Widowmaker I have seen in a very long time. Willow continues to impress, but that's not to take anything away from everybody else in the server who played fantastically in their own right. I've got to hand a lot of prizes away over to Arctic. It may not have been a consistent thing, but there were so many spurs of greatness. You can see why this team has done relatively well, right? Tony was leading the team beautifully. Graphics did a great job supporting the rest of them. It just lacked a little bit of that punch in moments, and that's when Tempo was really able to come in, take an advantage, and punch their ticket on to being 4-2.
There was just so much peel as well for Willow. Tempo know that star player is that DPS, and by golly, did they set him up for some amazing shots. The pocket from the backline, the peel from the tanks, every single time Willow got jumped upon by pretty much the entire team of Arctic, he was still able to get himself safely out of the way. And if you're Arctic, you just put in so many resources, so much cooldowns into getting one person that you're still not able to grasp, even if it's only half the team going for. That still means half of the team are missing. Half of that protective layer that are there to keep that backline stable is completely removed by your own hand, and you are just not able to stand up as soon as Tempo so much as breathed upon you.
Yeah, it looks like a one-man army, but there really was 6 pieces to that. Keeping them up, keeping them supported, taking space for the Widowmaker to do work. All fantastic jobs on the side of Tempo. However, for Tempo and Arctic, that's all we have for tonight, ladies and gents. A 4-0, but a very entertaining one, to say the very least. I would like to apologize for all of the technical issues. None of those had to do with Juke. Those were all Moxie and I's internet doing various forms of just jumping in and out of this call. The cannoli time started out as a meme, but it kind of just... Once you make the cannoli time meme, it just invades the entire stream. It's bound to happen more than once, you know?
It's the power of Willow. You know, this guy, his Sombra, it's too great for even an internet service to deal with.
Well, it's all we got. Willow did a fantastic job against not only the enemy team, but us as well. EMP'd out, and with that, we'll go ahead and disconnect this Twitch stream. Ladies and gents, there's more matches coming on later. I'm going to pull them up on my little cheat sheet over here. Monday, don't miss the podcast, and then it's going to be on Tuesday. It's Miami Yikes up against Delta Threat TBD versus TBD on Friday. and Lightspeed versus Prodigious on Thursday. Still plenty of Tranquility action coming in here into the second half of the season. You won't want to miss a minute of it. But as for tonight, I've been Dor. I've been joined by Moxie, and Juke is producing. We made that joke another time, but it doesn't work this time. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you later.